Hi there, welcome to Health Bunker Lyme Podcasts. The other day I had the pleasure of talking to a good mate of mine, Kirk, who has also got Lyme disease. And me and him are going to try and do a weekly or fortnightly podcast or regular podcasts about Lyme disease and other health-related conditions. And we're going to try and get some guests on as well, functional doctors, and dentists and lots of other people that probably help people in general health, let alone if you've got Lyme disease. So I hope you enjoy this chat. I was sort of interviewing him. I think it's my turn this next time. He's going to interview me, and we had a relaxed chat about what Lyme disease did to us. It's not a crown your pillar thing, it's just more of an explanation of what people go through with Lyme disease. So see you soon. Alright, welcome to something new, I suppose. Health Bunker Lyme podcast. I actually started these before I started my sheep farm stuff, and I suppose this is something we're going to try and do on a regular basis. So we're not going to hold ourselves to any dates or how many times a month. But I'm joined today with my mate Kirk, we're going to be talking about Lyme disease because both of us have met during from 2020, actually, Kirk, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we both have Lyme disease, so obviously the connection were there for some reason. It puts up with me, but anyway, there you go. So do you want to introduce yourself, Kirk, to all? I'm going to put this on Sheep Farm anyway, so
of course. Yeah, so my name's Kirk Howarth. Like Dom said, started suffering with Lyme disease about 9 years ago, and then went through a whole crazy amount of treatments that we'll probably talk about. And I think that's why me and Dom want to share today is to try and we have big hearts, and I think when you go through suffering, you want to help other people, right?
Yeah.
Comes from, and I think we always speak about these things, so it's good to share, because I always think, Dom, I don't know about you, but like if I'd have found a podcast like this like 9 years ago when I had no help from anyone, it would have saved my life. But back then there was nothing, there was no awareness, nothing. So and then I've been a bit of a journey from then, and then I met Dom, like about 3 years ago, and obviously get on really well, and we've done a lot of the same treatments and understand all those same things that we always say, like we take for granted because we know them, but the world doesn't really know them in general, right?
Yeah, and there's a big crossover, isn't there? It's not just about Lyme disease, because obviously Lyme disease, whatever Lyme disease is, and I always say that, but it comes with hundreds of different symptoms and illnesses, many different, from everything from cardiovascular, respiratory, all sorts of different autoimmune problems it causes, and we'll go through these. So it's not just about Lyme disease, because all these illnesses are co-infections and co-symptoms, etc., aren't there?
Yeah, and I always just say there's nothing that Lyme can't do, because that's what used to mate. I used to every week have a new symptom, be going to doctor, when I just didn't know what to do, and I was like crazy. I was going crazy.
We were. That's the truth of it. We were.
Yeah, and we were told we were crazy, right? And I think that's the hardest thing, getting all the kind of gaslighting and like all that sort of thing you get from GPs when you're going through such a treacherous time and you're dealing with it on your own and no one understands it.
Yeah, and also the not stigma of Lyme disease, but actually going there and them telling you that there's nothing wrong with you, and then you've got to go home and tell people that they've told me there's nothing wrong with me, and they say, "I told you there was nothing wrong with you. You look well. You look perfectly well."
It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, just totally demoralizing in it as well.
Yeah, because if you think about it, and I, I always say to you, we should be so proud of ourselves because we kept saying in those times, like, I completely get why people have mental breakdowns, because the families don't even believe them. Like, imagine that you're in absolute agony, and then, like, 99% of people that I know with Lyme are the most driven, like, people, love working, like very energetic before that, lots of sport, them sort of things. People that push themselves a lot, and then they've got like the parents telling them that they're lazy and and stuff, when they're literally just chronic fatigue and pain and all these things that you can't see, and they just can't do it.
One of the worst things is that, and we're going to discuss all of these things, and tonight it's just a test. It's the first one. We're just going to have a chin wag, but all of these things, like, I look back now and I think, I don't know how I made it through. I don't know if I could go through what I went through again. I'd struggle. I would struggle with that. But you just mentioned chronic fatigue, and I mentioned chronic fatigue to people, and anybody out there who's suffering with it. Oh, I felt tired. You know, when you've been on a long flight, it's not like that
Yeah.
at all, is it?
Yeah, and it is. And then you have to really get. I try and understand it from, for instance, like my dad's point of view of like if you don't, it's one of those things that if you don't, they say if you don't get it, you don't get it, and it's
Mm,
it's exactly that. And chronic fatigue, yeah, just seems like you're tired, but it's so different.
yeah.
They
Well,
couldn't they
yeah.
couldn't be further apart.
No,
Chronic
and
fatigue is horrendous.
yeah. So for anybody who's got, it's not just about being tired, is it? It's like well, it is every single cell in your body has just died, collapsed, um, in an instant, and it's difficult to explain unless you've been through it. It's like you're carrying kryptonite around with you, and like Superman, and you just can't. You're walking through treacle, and your bones feel
Mm,
90-year-old, and your joints feel 90-year-old, and your muscles feel 90-year-old. 1 second you could actually feel not bad, and you could
mm.
walk 10 foot or walk up some steps and feel like the whole world has ended. That's how ridiculous all this is. It's not. It's not like you've had an accident or you've done something. It's
No.
that instant, isn't it? It's just that random at times.
Yeah, yeah. It's really difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, and I
Um,
don't want this to be a moan fest, right? I mean, me and Kirk are quite
no,
light-hearted.
but I
We've
think
got quite
yeah,
good
yeah.
senses of humour. That's why we
We
get
have,
on. And like,
we have a lot of banter, don't
yeah, yeah. So,
we?
but what I want to say is that people who look say like Kirk's a busy guy. We'll go into what he does at the minute, but and I'm a busy guy now. But going back 5 years, 4 years, I couldn't have handled a third of what I'm doing now. Like even contemplate doing a third of what I'm doing now. I'd have fallen over. I just couldn't handle it at all. And I
Yeah.
still feel like I'm lacking in a lot of things that I do, even with all the research I do and things like that, and the stuff that I'm doing at the moment. But I still don't have that same drive that I had before.
No, definitely not. But yeah, going back to like the thing about like not being, yeah, like we are super positive and we have a lot of banter. But I think if you're gonna really talk about Lyme and be realistic and be real about it and be truthful, it's kind of hard to say it without it sounding kind of
Well,
not that
how long
positive.
have I been
No,
just how long have I been saying let's do this? Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
all that research I do on sheep farm, all them hours and hours and hours, and I've got all the same sort of research for Lyme disease, and I've never talked about it really that much. I've mentioned it simply because it's that personal to me. It's that
yeah,
emotional.
exactly.
Yeah,
And it's very healing, but obviously, yeah, we want to speak as well because people that are suffering, that were in our situation, that don't know what they've got, because I don't know how long it took you, but it took me 5 years to work out what it was. That's 5 years of my life going through doctor to doctor, ping to one to another, and the frustration and the trauma and the stress that comes with. We can save them that stress, and that's
yeah.
why I think it's important to speak out.
Yes. I mean, it took me 2006. I started feeling ill. 2017, I got diagnosed.
Yes, you even longer then.
Yeah, quite a long time. I suppose the fortunate thing I was doing was some of the things I got into was actually holding off the symptoms. Probably it weren't getting rid of them, but it was certainly helping me through the day. Some of the natural stuff I was doing, which was again that there's so many things you can talk. When people say to me, "What are the symptoms for Lyme disease?" You sort of, I said, "Well, I can't really tell you," and that's even worse because it's you get headaches or you get I get an headache, chronic fatigue. Oh, I feel tired. I get my knee hurts as well, and you can't explain it because you don't want to be a drama queen, and also
Yeah,
you don't
you don't want to sound negative either.
know, and so you become an
But
actor, don't you, or an actress, whatever.
oh, oh my God, I was like, I nailed acting to the absolute pinnacle.
Mm,
I mean, until then, it was so bad that I couldn't act anymore because it was
yeah,
so obvious. Like I couldn't
yeah.
even walk through a door straight, and I was 26. I couldn't walk through a door
Jesus,
straight. I'd hit the
yeah,
sides.
yeah. I've been
You know what I
there.
mean?
I
And
used to
then
walk
people,
upstairs, miss the steps, and spill my tea all over.
yeah. That's the word. I think yeah. If we're going to talk, I think amid all the pain was one of my worst things. We're going to talk about symptoms, and one that really challenged me was the brain fog and the memory loss,
Mm,
and that was the scariest point for me. Where like I was 26 and I was googling Alzheimer's at 2 a.m, like trying to work out what
yeah,
the hell is going wrong with me,
mm,
and everyone else just thinks I'm crazy because I can't remember what I did yesterday.
yeah. And yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's really that was the hardest thing, I think, for me.
yeah, neurologically, it destroyed me. But again, I think that was the hardest thing for me. And then I think, well, hang on a minute, mentally, I was destroyed as well. Just negative, probably suffering from depression at times. I don't know, because I taught myself out of it because I studied quite a lot of psychology and things like that. I could manage to do. I had exercises I could do that got rid of those feelings. So it isn't. I sort of managed them myself, because I also knew, Kirk, if I went to a doctor and had a conversation about this is happening to me, I knew what was going to happen. They were going to put me on some tablets, and I was going to be down there forever as being mentally ill.
I know. Yeah.
And so for what, 11 years, I didn't go.
Yeah, but
I didn't.
I think going back to like the mental health stuff, I think my theory is that people that, because I'm really positive minded, and I kept working. I worked crazy hours when I was so ill. Just kept I'm mentally strong, but like obviously it breaks you down. But I think, do you not think like Lyme can just cause severe anxiety or severe depression,
definitely.
right? So how many people in this world are suffering from that and are on medication the rest of their lives and just accepted it, when it could actually be Lyme? It's actually the root cause of this. It's the parasitical spirochetes or whatever. That's another level of detail.
That's another,
once it crosses the blood-brain barrier, can't that alone just give you severe anxiety and depression and no other symptoms? Because that's what it can do. I've met all different people. Obviously, we've talked about symptoms and we've had quite a lot of similar ones, but then I know some people that have just had like severe anxiety and depression and brain fog, and that's it, no pain. So it's or just severe gut issues. I think your wife had severe gut issues way more than we did. So it's all variables, right?
It is, and you tend to find that different people have got one or two things that they're there, if you like, ball and chain that they have to carry around with them. For you, it was pain. You suffered with headaches as well, didn't you? I had a headache, literally, of varying degrees of pain.
And it's not a headache's like the lightest word you can call it.
It's not an headache. It's like someone setting. It's probably like a bad migraine. When people
times by 1,000.
Yeah, when people have had migraines, I know they've got to go home. Some people worked for me who had migraines, and I know it destroyed them. But I had a headache from 2006 up to 2018, of varying degrees of pain.
Every single
both sides
day.
of my head, every single day, every day. Some days it were light, and you could handle it. And most days were light, and you could handle it, but it was always there. And it was only when it went. It was only when it went that I realised I had a headache for that long, because it became normal.
You normalise it, don't you? Because you have to. You become immune to it, and your threshold for certain things like pain just becomes super, super high. I just got used to it. I could just, I just had I just built a mental kind of barrier in my head that I could just get by with whatever level amount of pain. Obviously, some days were worse than others, but
I also think that some people, and this isn't I don't want to make it sound like anybody's a superhero and some people are weaker. I think it affects people because it affects people differently in different ways, and people obviously are different as well. I see people that it absolutely destroys. Other people can sort of fight it, and that's not meaning that anybody's better or worse. It might affect them in different areas, I know people, we both know people who are housebound, for argument's sake, that they can't leave the house. That could have been me and you very easily. And yet there's literally hundreds of symptoms. That's the thing. My toes used to hurt, little toe. And then I'd be walking and my ankle would feel like it were going to collapse. And then it'd go after about 5 minutes or something like that. Then it'd be my knee or my hip. And odd things that were happening. Or I get swellings in my head. And obviously because I'm bald, they showed up quite a bit. And just like little lumps, and then they go. And just weird stuff that were happening. It was like you were living in some sort of dream.
It's like some zombie world. Did you ever get like I used to be able to look at my arm and I could see like bugs moving around inside
crawling skin.
What did they call them? Yeah,
it's like crawling skin, in it. But
I used to be able to see them. Oh, that was scary as well, because obviously at that time, obviously now, like we became
Similar
our
to
own.
Morgellons, that, isn't it?
Yeah,
Similar to Morgellons. Yeah.
we became our own researchers, and I don't like to say our own doctors, but we took our health into our own hands, right?
Yeah.
Because we got to a certain point where we had no choice. But back then, when we were, like we talk about programmed into this world to, when you're sick, you just get doctors to sort you out. That's the world we were in then. We didn't know any different, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've had to learn on the job.
Yeah. While we were goosed.
Pretty quick.
Yeah. While we were goosed as well. And not only that, not only learn, but actually experiment on ourselves with different, because we both came at it in slightly different ways as well. So there isn't one right way, not everything works for everybody. And that's another thing that people find difficult. One thing that does work is the dedication to stick to a clean diet, the dedication to stick to doing something that works. You can't, as soon as you jump off piste, if you like, and decide to go and drink 10 cans of lager and whatever, eat McDonald's, you just knocked yourself back 6 months probably, or a year or what have you.
I think you have to culture some sort of discipline to be able to keep at it and still be feeling like shit, but still keeping at it and staying kind of positive.
Even when you think you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, that's the worst thing. Yeah, like when you can't even get out of bed, but you're like visualizing that you're going to be better. These things I used to do quite a lot. I'd be like, "There's no way I'm staying like this."
No, it is rather difficult. So let's get into this week. We'll probably hear a bit of your background more than mine. And next week we'll do the opposite way, or next time we'll do the opposite way around, and then at least people can get a feel for. Obviously, my background and your background are probably slightly different. I'm not saying we're going to go into all those personal details, just more like what job were you doing at the time and all that type of stuff. But it's more the fact that we're just average guys. We're not anything special to that. We've, all this research we've done and all this knowledge that you've built up over time. We're not anything different from anybody else. If somebody's at school, I would have dumb shit. So, I just had a lot of energy. So. Yeah. Anyway, we're nothing special. So let's have a bit of background on yourself, Kirk, and then everyone could know.
Yeah. So I've been a chef since I was 15, 16. So I've always kind of been into the environment of very busy, kind of working a lot of hours and them sort of things. Because my dad's a chef, so I trained with him, and then moved to London when I was 19 actually, and worked in pretty intense kitchens. Working it, and which I know now I believe contributed to it, because I always say Lyme just pulls the trigger. That's my theory. That's kind of like the last straw, your body saying, nah, it's time, fuck you, basically. So and then basically I worked in London for about 3 years, working 16-hour days, crazy, not eating, under very high pressure, high stress. Even then I looked ill and I just weren't eating and looking after myself. So I moved to Australia. I'm going to cut long story short. So I moved to Australia to try and get a bit of, we're still working good kitchens, but have a bit of a life, have a bit more sleep and things. I was having 5 hours sleep when I was in London.
They're pretty high in kitchens, these, aren't they?
Yeah, so two Michelin stars. So very, and back then it was, it was very, it's a lot of bullying going on and them sort of things.
Yeah.
They weren't pleasant. So and we know now how the impact of stress has on our body, right? And it manifests, and then it all comes out eventually. And then basically, I got bitten actually in Australia, and I woke up in the morning. I got bitten when I was asleep, but I woke up in the morning, didn't see it. My hand was just huge, massive.
Right.
My fingers were the size of your arms, mate. I went to the doctors, and they just give me some antibiotics and said when it goes down in a week, you're fine, sort of thing. So I did that. My hand went back to normal. And then ever since then, I just started having all these symptoms, and like you said, so many. It started with just constantly needing to wee. So I'd be in a kitchen, and every literally 5 minutes I need to go for a wee. So you can imagine in kitchens, it's quite embarrassing because you're small, you're working next to each other. So people notice, they think "Whoa, what's up with them?" sort of thing. So then obviously you're embarrassed, you have to try and hold it and hide it and stuff. And then I started with severe chronic headaches and dehydration, and I was drinking loads of water. And even when I weren't drinking loads of water, I was still needing to wee loads,
Yeah.
weird things like this.
Yeah.
And then it just started manifesting like more and more in these things, intensifying. So I was going to the doctors all the time. You know, they were just giving me tablets. Um, so, um, so
This still
yeah,
we're still in Australia at this point.
yeah. I was still in
So you got
Australia.
bitten by a tick in Australia then, or would it?
We don't. They thought it may be a spider or a
Right,
tick, but I didn't. They didn't see it because I was asleep.
right. Because
So I just
obviously,
walked.
if everyone thinks that it's all tick based, and it's not, is it? I think mine
Nah,
came from mosquitoes. To be honest with you,
I think mosquitoes carry it. Even bed bugs can carry it.
yeah,
Spiders definitely carry it. And this
yeah,
is the thing. Yeah, people go into doctors, and if you haven't been bitten by a tick, apparently they don't believe you.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's just brutal. It's just brutal,
It
isn't
is
it?
brutal.
Like,
Yeah.
I just feel for those people, and yeah, it's
I
crazy.
mean, whatever Lyme is, and there's obviously different schools of thought where obviously you've got terrain theory and your germ theories and all this type of thing. Whatever it is, I didn't know I got bitten, so I'd no proof of any bite. 50% of people with Lyme disease don't even know they've been bitten.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's a bite or like you were saying earlier, whether it's that your immunity or your immune system, whatever you want to call it, or you're that stressed, or for some reason your protection is down for that moment in time. And maybe we all carry this spirochete around with us. And at some point it comes out when we're all stressed. Maybe a bite overloads us. Who knows? Maybe
Mm.
it's the same principle, but yeah, it's but stress, your job was highly stressful, my job were highly stressful. But even people whose jobs isn't as stressful get bitten and are destroyed by it, aren't they? So it's not just about that, is it? But it is a major contributor is stress, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's this theory as well, which I believe that maybe you can be like 1 or 2 years of age, get a tick bite, like those tiny ones that you don't really see even, and then it comes out when you're older. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Well,
Which
I think to some extent everyone's got Lyme disease.
yeah, I do as well. I think I personally got bitten when I was a kid. That's what I think because
Mm.
I can remember I've got a memory of having some rashes on my arm. Didn't get any symptoms or anything. I looked back through my medical records and didn't show up any symptoms for that time. Didn't have
Mm.
any problems or anything like that. So, but I can distinctly remember the long summer of '76 and having 2 or 3 rashes on my arm. But
Yeah,
yeah, like you say, I think we carry these things around with us, and for some reason we get overloaded with whatever toxins, and it brings them out. And
yeah.
I mean, you have as well. You spoke to some people, seen some pretty horrendous um, issues caused by these things. You know, people that are bedbound, and the problem is that, like you've said, and it is a problem that the conventional medicine, once they've given you some antibiotics, that's it. As far as they're concerned, you haven't got it anymore. No way possible. They don't recognize chronic Lyme disease. And yet,
No.
most of these illnesses that we see now, whether it's mental illnesses, whether it's digestive, joint, muscle, whatever it is, all have the same symptoms of what we had.
Mm.
So you could,
Yeah,
like you've just said, you could actually say most people have got Lyme disease.
yeah. I believe that's what I believe.
So do I. And we're on the same page there. But I
But
mean,
there's
going into
levels
the
as
reeds
well.
a bit
There's
there, aren't we?
levels
We're
as
going
well.
into
Yeah.
we're
Well,
going more
well,
down a darker
yeah.
path, if
I
you like.
mean, yeah. I think that is super interesting. I think as well. Yeah, we can talk about that obviously in the next kind of series. We'll go deeper and
Yeah,
deeper into
yeah,
all these kind of things that we think,
yeah.
which will hopefully help
Well, I actually
people.
think some of them are proven as well. I don't think some of them aren't just going into the weeds, but we'll come to them later on. I think there's a lot of stuff where obviously the problem is, let's just say somebody gets bitten on day one, they go to the doctors, they give them antibiotics or they give them a test. We give them antibiotics and give them a test. The test comes back negative. They've had their antibiotics. Doctor says you're all right now. 3 4 weeks later, they start feeling crap again. They go back to the doctors. Well, they've tested negative, so there's no
Yeah,
we can do.
that's an important thing to note. That the basic NHS test is basically a lot of crap, so it doesn't really mean anything. So it's pretty pointless. So you're getting tested saying it's negative when you actually can be positive. I was negative on NHS and then positive like crazy on Orbing Labs.
Yeah, Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm in
So yeah,
labs. We were tested. I was tested on two actually. Cyrex Labs in America, and quite by chance, they were the first ones had found online that were doing a viral panel. I hadn't a clue what a viral panel was. Uh, a panel basically of infections that you could get tested for, and I just ticked Lyme disease. I weren't going to do it, but it were an extra, forget what it was, 50 quid or whatever, and I said I'll do it, and it came back showing positive.
mm.
And so the lady I was working with at the time, functional doctor Jane Davis, she said you need to do one. We use BCA labs. You used Armin. They're the two go-to labs in Germany, aren't they?
Yeah, they're the two main ones. Yeah.
That you need to use if you're looking, or anybody you know is looking for Lyme disease. Well, look if they've got symptoms of Lyme disease, because I mean, just us two alone have come across literally hundreds of people with Lyme disease in this country, and yet they say it's not a problem.
Well,
And
yeah. I mean, Lyme disease is a pandemic.
yeah,
I call it a hidden pandemic.
yeah, yeah, it's not a bad way
It's
of looking at
like
it.
a real one, though. A real one. Well,
We're going down a road, Kirk.
yeah. But anyway, yeah. But back on track.
I'm going to try and get this on YouTube. So
Yeah. And then basically that just started to get worse. And I was actually, obviously, I was starting to get really stressed as well, because I was like, "What the flip's what's happening? What's going on with me?" I don't think that was helping to getting more stressed, but I kept trying everything. And then one morning I woke up, and I can only explain it as like the worst hangover I've ever had times by 5 million. Plus like a bouncer has like jumped on me. I've been jumped, right?
yeah,
Oh, like, and then I've woke up in the morning, like, literally, I literally couldn't function. I couldn't move my legs. Like, my head felt like it was literally on fire, like blown up. And like all my eyes were puffy and my cheeks. And I was like, oh my God, my head. I mean, you can't even call it a headache because it's just like someone pickaxing you. It
yeah,
was horrendous.
yeah.
And again, yeah, not to be negative, but I'm just
No,
try and be
but
real.
them headaches.
Try and be real so people get it, right? Because that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, them headaches were pretty
Oh my God.
destructive. You just,
I used to squeeze my head because I was
yeah,
so
yeah,
like frustrated. And I remember some nights I'd literally take, and this again, I didn't know nothing about health, and I'd take a full packet of paracetamol just to go to sleep, like
yeah,
10
yeah,
paracetamols just
yeah,
to go to sleep. I would just be eating them like sweets
yeah. And they
because
only just take.
I was so desperate.
Yeah, I was fortunate that a couple of Nurofen used to take dampen mine down, so I could get to sleep. And generally, when he woke up, it had gone, which was a strange thing. Oh, gone to a point where it weren't like an hammering inside your head. But I suppose I know people who've taken like yourself. Your headaches sound worse than mine, to be fair. But I know people who tablets just didn't work. No painkillers worked for them. They just had
Oh
to
no, it
wait
was
till they
same with me.
passed. Yeah,
That's what it was like.
and it was like
Uh,
they're not like headaches; they're like attacks, aren't they?
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You can't really explain it. Um, But then, yeah, my legs were the worst. So I had this chronic pain in my legs, like horrendous. Couldn't even hardly walk on them. So me being me, I was this crazy like chef that like just didn't want to be seen as like. Back then, I used to care what people thought about me. I didn't want to be seen as like a chef that pulled sickies and all that because it was quite. If people pull sickies in kitchens, it would spread quite
Yeah.
quickly, and it's stupid, really. If you're not well, you shouldn't go to work, and that's that. But I used to cover my legs in like a tub of heat rub gel. I used to wrap them up in bandages and I'd go to work. And I don't know how I got through it. I could hardly walk up the stairs. So I used to use the railing and I'd drag my legs up the stairs. Crazy mental stuff. And I'm not proud of this. I actually regret it a
No,
lot
I think you
since.
should be.
Anyway,
I think you should be because that
I don't
shows that
know.
inner strength that you've got.
Yeah,
Um,
but
I'm not saying you should have done it, but it shows the inner
because
strength.
yeah, I mean, and to people listening, like, what do you do though? Because no one knows what's wrong with you.
Yeah,
Everyone else, all the professionals say you're fine. So it's just you against you, basically. So
yeah,
what do you do? Just sit in a dark room and be depressed and just rot away, or do you try and like fight it? Right. So that's pretty much what I did. And obviously, I didn't get a diagnosis, so I was like, what the hell is happening? So literally, as soon as my days off, I was in the doctors. I was going to A&E every night after work at 1 a.m. Like I'd be doing like a 14-hour shift and then I'd go into A&E and I'd be having like brain scans because I was like there's something inside my brain. I think I've got
That is what it
something
feels
inside my
like.
brain. Yeah, yeah,
It's like you can feel stuff moving. It's a
yeah. And
what an
then you
odd
start,
sensation that is.
and
Do you
then
know
you
what?
then
I'd
you
forgotten about that.
yeah, and then you start getting anxious, thinking,
Yeah,
start thinking about
yeah,
all the bad shit it could be,
yeah.
right? And then you have a scan, and you're like, no, it's come back clear. And you're like, so like, what is it then? What is it? So
How's it
yeah,
possible to come back clear when you're
yeah,
in that
so
much pain and you can feel
oh,
things moving around in your head?
yeah, so I was yeah, exactly. So I was in Australia, and then I was spending like 2 grand on like having my scan spined. I mean, I was so desperate. I didn't have much money either, but I just had a bit of savings. But I was so desperate, I'd done anything. I'm whacking on credit cards, everything.
Yeah.
So I was having these scans come back: brain scan clear, spine clear, legs clear. Nothing wrong
So
with yourself.
demoralizing, man. Yeah.
And you just like, at the same time, obviously, that's you think that's good in a way, but you just want to know what it is. It's not good for you because you want to know what it is so you can find out what's going on with you, and you can prove that you're not crazy, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so cut long story short, I did basically a whole year of that, like literally in agony. My girlfriend at the time, like, just I don't know if she coped with me, but and we'll talk about that, how they have to, family, it's very difficult. I think you said, like, like trying to get your brother to kind of understand
Yeah,
how
yeah.
bad it really, really was and stuff. And I understand it from their point of view as well. So we can talk about that in another series. But yeah, it got so bad I had to come home. So I came back home. And then me and my dad spent like 5 years basically going to all these neuroscientists. Oh, and before that, actually, I was so like I couldn't have a conversation because my pain was so bad. I literally couldn't. I was like, all these painkillers that I was taking weren't doing anything. So I said to the doctor, I was like, I need, like, I can't cope. So they give me like opioids, which are gabapentin.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was on those, and actually, to be fair, and obviously we'll go into
Sometimes
it.
though, you do need that alleviate just have no symptoms
Mate,
for a
I
few
wouldn't have
hours
been,
or whatever, you know.
mate. And we'll talk about this, my
Yeah.
stance on pharmaceuticals and stuff.
Yeah.
But I couldn't cope, so there was no other choice, mate.
It's like Lyme's a pharmaceuticals wet dream, isn't it? Because it
Yeah.
just covers every base, doesn't it? But anyway, yeah, we'll come to that one at some other point. But
Yeah, so yeah, I spent like 5 years then basically going from neuroscientist to neuroscientist all over England, paying fortunes to see the top people, and even some of them, I could not believe it. They would just be like, take your gabapentin for the rest of your life. And
yeah.
like, mate, I've just paid you £500. I've travelled all the way down to London. I was living with my dad up north then. Like, are you serious? Loads of stuff like that. Keep repeating my same story because they haven't passed the information on. Basically, this happened for about 4 or 5 years, and then I got so angry. I said to my dad, "I'm not doing this anymore." He said, "What do you mean?" My dad's quite old school, like doctors know best. I was like,
Yeah.
"This, I'm not. I'm never coming to any of these appointments anymore. I'm done. I'm going to find out what it is on my own. I'm done." And back then, like I said, I didn't know anyone that was suffering like me. And then that's when I don't know how it opens up, but you open up one thing and it opens up another, and then you meet someone, and then it just kind of unravels, and you start
Yeah.
going down this path of all these treatments and stuff. So I started to. That's when I read about the gut and all these things, and started doing a lot of juicing and looking after my diet and cleaning all that. I've never done it before. Yeah, I was a chef, but chefs look after themselves terribly.
Yeah.
Generally,
Yeah.
we cook
Chris
great.
does or did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we cook great food for everyone else. When it comes to ourselves, we just like abandon it. It's crazy. And I talk a lot about that now because it's so important. Yeah, so I did. I moved back home with my dad, and I did the first treatments I did actually was a treatment called bioresonance therapy. And there's a lot of different kind of opinions on this, but I just saw this post on Facebook. I started getting in all these Facebook groups. And this is when so I should rewind, sorry, a little bit. um I found out I found out through a friend of my dad's that there was someone on the news talking about Lyme disease, and he's like, "Oh, it sounds like your son Kirk, like get him to have a look at it." And it was actually that John Caldwell talking about Lyme.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, and then I was like, I remember Googling, I just knew in my heart. And then I got tested. I actually went to Breakspear and got tested through them, and I spent an absolute fortune, but I didn't know anything. I was so desperate, literally bombed it down there in my car the next day, and I was like, I'm going to find out what it is.
Yeah. Is that where you did your Armin Labs test?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I did loads of others. Yeah, spent a fortune.
I mean, for me, once you've had that Lyme test and it's positive, all bets are off, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
Once, if I'd have known what I know now, I'd have that Lyme test, and then, I mean, we'll talk about like therapies that we've both done differently as well. But I'd have gone straight into the treatments that I would do. If I could jump back and jump forward, I'd have the Lyme test positive, ozone 10 pass. Thank you very much. All right, obviously change my diet and my lifestyle and all that type of stuff as well. But I won't bother spending a fortune on all the other stuff, which everybody seems to go down that path, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Which I understand because we're all in a fuck state. But
it's all right saying, it's all right saying that when you've got the wisdom seven,
yeah, it
whatever
is, yeah,
years later. Like, it's life, isn't it? And you have to, I think, we spoke about this. There's a lot of healing in that, all that trauma and that regret of all the money you lost. You have to let go of it.
Yeah, you have,
because that actually stops your healing. Like,
Mm.
yeah, like I'd probably have my own house now if it weren't for Lyme, but that's just the way it is. I just, that
we
money
could also
went.
be in a worse state, couldn't we, as well?
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. And I always say to you, don't I? Like, for me, Lyme was a gift. Like, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but the person I am now and how I look at the world and how I live in gratitude and the people I've met through it, like, the people I met through it, I mean, I wouldn't change those. It's created my whole circle of friends.
Yes.
Crazy.
It has. It's changed. Well, it changed my life. The person I was in the 2000s, I'm not that person anymore. And people who knew me in the 2000s, for argument's sake, look at me as though I'm just the same type of character. I'm not saying I've changed massively, but I've certainly gone more. I don't have loads of people that I know now. It's not like I need loads of friends. It makes you not necessarily insulate. It don't make you that, but it makes you comfortable in your own skin. Sort of thing. You don't need many people around you anymore.
No, you become very, you have to, and you just let go of what anyone
very
thinks.
Self-reliant. Yeah, you do. You
very,
don't care.
Very self-reliant. Yeah, you don't care. It's like all you're caring about is trying to feel good again.
Yes.
You would literally like live on your own forever to get rid of all them symptoms and that pain.
Yeah.
Like, you'd do anything.
Yes. And we did.
And we did.
And we did do anything. So sorry, carry on because we keep going off on a different tangent.
Yeah. So I did a treatment called bioresonance, and I did a herbal protocol called the Cowden protocol. And actually, very luckily, I actually spoke to someone before I did treatment in Breakspear, because Breakspear were like, you need to do 5 days a week, antibiotics, IV, intravenous, and all this stuff. I was like, and it was like crazy money, like $8,000 a month, $8,000 every 2 weeks, something crazy like that. Wow. Obviously, I couldn't afford it, but then I actually, someone who I knew someone else that had Lyme. It was an old lady in Scotland, and she actually told me, "Don't go near it. Try these and try that, all these alternative things." Right. So I was lucky on that respect. And she was talking. She was talking about how they destroy your gut, and you need your gut microbiome for your immune system, all this stuff we know now, but I didn't know anything then. So I was doing Cowden, which is like a herbal protocol designed by a doctor in America. So I did that every single day for 9 months. And if you talk about discipline, like you have to take it like 4 times a day at certain times, like half an hour before you eat, all these things.
Yeah. And you've got brain fog, and your head's smashed. Yeah,
exactly. And you're living with your dad who thinks you're losing your marbles.
Yeah.
So I did that bioresonance, the herbal protocol, and then really, really intense on the diet. Like everything organic. At that time as well, I was eating a little bit some meat and fish, but just eating very clean. No sugars. Obviously, read about how sugar feeds it and all that. So I got rid of that. Literally, you turn your kitchen upside down. You just get rid of everything, right?
Yeah, everything. It's like, every single thing
everything that tastes good, you can't have anymore.
No, you might as well just forget about that.
So I did that, and literally within 9 months, I got quite a lot better.
Yeah,
that was 70% better.
Yeah.
I also did oregano oil, frankincense oil, and clove oil from doTERRA, which are very potent oils.
Yeah.
Got an earthing mat for my bed, all these things. Got into a little bit of meditation and stuff like that. And then basically, we've talked about England. Australia is actually the worst place in the world, I'd say, for Lyme disease. They're literally, you cannot say you have Lyme now. It's basically illegal. It's crazy.
Really?
Yeah, it's literally crazy, which I'll tell you about. So basically, my best friend has a restaurant in Australia. So we was like, let's do some dinners in Australia. We'll do one in Australia and we'll come back to England and do one in England because like you, I'm the same person. I'm like everyone, like I want to stop everyone suffering. I need to
Yeah,
help everyone. And you go through
yeah,
these stages,
yeah, yeah.
like, and you realize you have to start looking after yourself a bit more and all these things. So I went to Australia, did a dinner there. I started getting, I don't think I've ever told you about this. So dinner and raised 35k for Lyme disease sufferers in Australia in one dinner, which was amazing. I did like some talks and stuff like that, and then I started getting emails off doctors in Australia threatening me, basically,
Fucking hell.
threatening my friend's restaurant, telling him that they're never going to go to his restaurant again and stuff like this. It's crazy, and saying that like I'm dangerous for raising awareness about Lyme because it doesn't exist. Like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and then we flew. Then I basically, but I flew to Australia, and all my symptoms relapsed, and I became basically like 10 times worse. So I'd spent
It,
all that. I spent that 9 months like and
yeah.
focusing on getting better, and everything came back.
What would you put that down to?
Well, just the intensity of a flight for 24 hours to Australia is huge, isn't it? It's not like you're doing an hour's
Mm.
flight. It's very intense, and now we know about everything that happens in the plane with the EMFs and the
Yeah.
radiation and all them things and
Yeah, well, I was
stress
going to
and
say, I bet it's some sort of frequency based because obviously, whatever happened when you got bitten in Australia, maybe there was some kind of return frequency. I don't know because it seems a bit too odd that you came back
I've
home,
never,
you cleaned
I've never,
yourself up, and then you landed in Australia and
yeah, I've
came
never
back.
thought of it. Never thought of it like that, Don.
You know, there must have
Yeah,
been some strange energy that obviously,
so
yeah. Anyway, it's a different angle, I suppose. But well, you did frequency work, and frequency helps. And a lot of people that have Lyme, I've done frequency work, and some of it helped
yeah,
me on certain symptoms, and didn't help on the other symptoms. Everyone who's into Lyme's probably heard or into alternative Lyme has heard of rife frequencies and things
yeah.
like that, and they certainly
Mm.
have some positive effects. The
I can honestly,
bioresonance
yeah,
stuff is fantastic for. I never got any
testing as well.
positive. It's fantastic for testing. I got a lot out of it for testing. Never got much out of it from a treatment perspective, but that's just me. I'm not saying it doesn't
Yeah,
do
yeah,
anything because I've heard other people say it does. So
yeah, exactly. I can honestly say when I was doing it, I could even feel my body changing. It was
yes,
insane.
yeah,
Obviously, I was doing a lot of other things that was all helping. I think you can't just rely on one thing. That's why I think you have to have like
yeah.
a little strategy.
Yeah, you've
Um,
got to find something that you've got. Like I'll use vitamin C from a prime example. I found that that helped dampen a few symptoms down. Didn't get rid of all my symptoms. It
mm,
damped them down. This is oral powdered vitamin C or liposomal stuff, and that helped me get through certain points in a day. You
mm.
know, so you've got to find stuff that you can use, that you can go to, that you can use, and
Yeah, and really like dial in on your body and listen to your intuition and stuff. What feels right. I did loads of stuff that I knew that weren't right, and because the doctor said it, I did it.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
when you're in these expensive clinics or whatever, and God, you just throw like a grand away in 30
yeah,
minutes or whatever,
yeah.
500 quid, and you just, yeah. And I knew in my body, I knew in my intuition that it wasn't right.
It's like going to a bloody casino in some of these, but really, when you think about it, apart from you're betting your life and your savings,
Yeah,
um,
you gamble in everything, really.
yeah. Because and also when you're that ill, you don't know if you're going to have a
You're not
means
thinking
to.
straight either, are you?
You're not thinking straight, and also have you got a means to earn it back? You just don't. There's no comprehension of what you're doing. It's an odd feeling. It is like you're off your head. I mean, I equate it to looking at yourself through one of those black and white grainy CCTV cameras, stumbling around and trying to find your key under a rock. You've been out drinking.
Uh-huh.
That's how you
Yeah,
feel, isn't it? That is how your life feels every day.
yeah. It
Um,
feels like you're living in a different universe.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. It's interesting, I've got to say, but it's
Yeah.
not nice.
No, it's
when you
not.
look, when I look back now, I think, like I say, I think, how did I get through? And everybody I talk to is a bit like that as well.
Yeah.
It's sad when you see people right at the early stage of treatment. I mean, we can look back now, and I'm not saying I'm over all my symptoms. I'll never say that, but I'm certainly feel like I've got past some of the worst ones, and because they've not been here for 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah.
But when I see people just starting out and they ask me how long is it going to take, obviously you can't answer anybody on
Mm.
that one because you just don't know. How long is it going to take to get better? And when I say, well, it took me 4 or 5 years, that the horror on the faces is awful to see. But that's the truth.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the truth.
I'm about 8 years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, because when you're in that, it's almost like when you're in that other mindset, the mindset of the system and wanting getting things healed or like quick fix, right? Because that's what we're all programmed to need. That's the mindset you're in. And so you like if you think even a year, it's like what, you're crazy.
Yeah.
A year, like you're nuts. Do you know what I mean? But healing takes such a long time.
Yeah, it does. Well, it's a forever thing for me.
Oh
Every
yeah,
day is a
it's a
treatment.
lifestyle for me.
Yeah, every meal is a treatment. Everything you do during the day, and eventually, it's a bit like training for the Olympics, but you're never going to go. You're actually training for something in it, but you're never going to. Your competition's every day, and so everything you do becomes natural. So you're changing your mindset and the way you live, which is obviously in this world it's difficult because you're just surrounded by distractions, aren't you?
Yeah, but I think it's also very, very powerful that you can then require that discipline to live that lifestyle. And like I say, I think it does make you, it's made me a better person, and it's attracted a lot of better people to be around me and things like
Yeah,
that. I attract people that are passionate about health and looking after themselves, and
yeah,
that's the world I'm in now. I
yeah.
don't attract people that are going on the sesh every weekend.
No, and neither do I.
Nothing against that if you do it, but do you know what I mean? Because that's just not the world that I live in.
No,
Like because we can't do that.
can't do
We
it.
think that's like the worst possible thing that we could do is go out and
Yeah,
get messed up on a weekend because it'll take us 3 months to get back to normal
yeah. I
again.
just can't envisage. But you know what? I like eating a curry, and if I eat a curry, I know I'm gonna have problems for a week. So I don't eat the damn things, you know what I mean? And a curry that fits in with what I want. It's a ketogenic, but I can't handle the spices anymore, which is a shame because it's one of
Yeah,
my favourite foods, curries.
yeah,
Even if
yeah,
it's a
but
clean one, I can't handle it. It doesn't have to
yeah,
be something in at 2 o'clock in the morning, you know?
yeah, mate. Yeah, I know. Like you have to kind of, and I think that does give you like a strong mindset, not to be like, not to get down about that,
Mm,
but to like find something else or what can I eat then, and then be
yeah,
passionate about that or making your own things. And
yeah,
I always look at it as like an education. Like that's why I look at this whole thing about Lyme. It's like a huge awakening of education that we never knew about. It's
yeah,
like going to school. It's like going to school again, all over
mm,
again, but properly.
yeah.
But
Well,
about health. Do you know what I mean?
I know Kirk says he's a chef, but he's a pretty high end chef. He's not doing himself a disservice there, and he started. I mean, people ask me about diets and different things, and people
Mm,
say I had someday I had a right go at me about vegan diets, saying I would killing animals or what have you, and all this type of stuff. And you know, I understand people's passion for that, but it turns out this lady's I think she was in her 60s, and she'd only been a vegan for 8 years, so she'd been killing animals for 50 odd years. So no mention of that one, but anyway. But in fairness, I don't eat red meat. Right, I was brought up as a butcher. My dad were a butcher. I worked in his butcher's shops, or shop,
mm.
should I say, or market stall. So sorry, not even a shop, market stall. From being a kid, I've been to slaughterhouses. But I don't eat red meat anymore. And so that's a choice because I know it doesn't agree with me. That's a
Mm.
lifestyle choice. So I eat fish. I'll eat eggs and I'll eat chicken. Don't eat anything else really, other than that. But well, as in from a protein perspective. Now
Yeah.
you turned your head, your experience with your in the chef world, you turned it into a living, haven't you? From because your diet that got you to feeling better now is your passion, isn't it?
Yeah, so I created my business, which is Plates, which is like a restaurant and food studio, and is basically focused around kind of everything I learned and basically inspired by plants and nature. And I don't really like the word vegan because I think it's quite
Yeah,
intense
I
and
don't either. Yeah,
and culty, and I don't think it
yeah,
needs to be have labels.
yeah,
But yeah, I wanted to like show I wanted to show my pain through food and recreate
Al Gore's a vegan. He might come in and have a meal with
Oh
you.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm Bill Gates.
yeah. Oh, Bill, he's my good mate. He is.
Yeah. I like Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to like show this expression of creativity through all kind of my struggles to create something positive out of something really, really dark. And then all the things that I learned. So like when I used to take tinctures, I'd like read about them about, wow, this is amazing for the body. How can we put it in food and all the medicinal mushrooms and them sort of thing. Yeah, so I created something out of it, and then I share that message through that. I don't talk like that much about Lyme anymore, but I used to quite a bit. But these last kind of few years, I haven't.
That's because you're dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a dangerous man talking about Lyme disease.
You can't talk about the things we know in this world.
No, it's not good. But I tell you what, we'll wrap up there because we've done nearly an hour there. We're going to try and keep these to about an hour, otherwise it'll go on and on and on.
I did tell you that.
Yeah, but we'll pick it up next time whenever we do another one. I'll try and I want them to go on YouTube as well, so we've got to be careful what we say.
Yeah.
But no, I've enjoyed that. For me, it's something now I'm ready to do personally. I'm ready to talk about Lyme disease in some kind of depth, and I wanted a format. I'm not that bothered about. Somebody said to me, "Why don't you go into your local press and stuff like that?" I don't want people locally knowing about it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I prefer to put it out on this format. This isn't my format.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Because this is what I'm used to now. This is what I'm used to doing. I don't really need to be in, I don't know, Yorkshire Life or whatever, talking about Lyme disease. Just don't, I don't know, it doesn't fit with
me. I think you're way too dangerous to be on there anyway.
Raw. Yeah. All right, well, we'll see you later. Yeah.
See you later.